Kampfgefuehl number 7. No, we are at 8 actually. I have a new guest. We have a new studio. We are talking in English. Everything is different, but it's going to be better than ever. And I have an interesting guest. Who are you?
I'm Lisette. In the Capoeira world, they call me Mestra Lisette. And in my name in German is Lisette, and in Dutch, Lisette. But I prefer Lisette.
Okay, I will try to stick to that convention. I will. And what do you do?
So I'm a capoeira teacher.
Yeah.
I opened my school 22 years ago in Haarlem, which is near Amsterdam in the Netherlands. And I've been teaching since. I teach children, youngsters and adults.
Do you do it full-time?
Full-time? Yes, it's my only job. Yeah. So I also teach workshops in schools. We sometimes give shows. And I also teach at capoeira events. Like today, I came to your class here in Halle in Germany. So that's what I do.
And did you always work as a capoeira mestra? What did you do before? How was your way into the capoeira world? And being a professional inside, and also a rare female professional for that matter. I was born in Amsterdam and I grew up in the Netherlands, but I went to study in England, and that's where I came across capoeira. I'd been doing gymnastics, dance and kung fu before. And when capoeira was explained to me, I kind of thought, oh, wow, that sounds interesting. So I did a test lesson, and then I was like, wow, it's just a combination of all these things together. After my master's degree, I had the opportunity to travel around. I could travel for a whole year, and so I decided to go to Brazil. And when I was in Brazil, I was like, well, I want to stay here and I want to do this the rest of my life. But I had this round the world ticket, and I also wanted to travel, so I continued traveling. And I also went to China, to Shaolin, and I trained a month kung fu there. With the Shaolin monks. Was it before or after the capoeira experience?
After.
Okay.
So I went first to Brazil, continued traveling, went around the world, and then I came to China. And in Shaolin, I realized, no, capoeira is really my thing. That's the thing I want to do, not kung fu. And if I really want to learn it, I should go to Brazil. So I continued traveling, and then with the last bit of money, I bought another ticket back to Brazil, and then I lived there for 2 years, and I trained there in Santos. And to earn money, I was an English teacher.
All right. And was the issue that drew you to capoeira instead of kung fu? What was it? What you liked about it? On which grounds you made the decision, this is my thing?
I think it's that you can express yourself more in capoeira. Mm-hmm. So it's not so fixed. Like in kung fu, is like the movement has to be there because you're going to a particular place in the throat. But in capoeira, you're sort of told that the situation is always going to be different. At the end of the day, it's different. So you learn a lot to adapt always. On the spot, to adapt what your opponent is going to do. So I felt more freedom in capoeira, and also the actual physical body. In kung fu, the Chinese, they could always really stand like in horse stance, really straight with the back. Mm-hmm. And what I have understood is that for Western bodies, it's more difficult, these positions, because of the length also of the legs in comparison with the rest of the body and so on. So the capoeira felt more natural to me, also because I used to dance, and so there's a big element of dancing to live music. So all these things together made me realize that capoeira is my thing. Yeah, but I like the martial art aspect that you have in kung fu, and but you also have it in capoeira.
Yeah. It was quite surprising to me right now that you said it's capoeira comes more natural to you as a European, if I understand you right. Because a lot of people also say that European hips are stiff
and that all the flowy movement are harder to adapt than, for example, standing in a straight upward stance in Kung Fu. But for you, it was the other way around, was it?
Maybe because of my dance background. So I was more used to moving the body.
Yeah.
More.
And
maybe, yeah. I'm just saying that it just felt more natural to me.
And what's that, so to say, feeling of naturalness? How does it? How would you translate to somebody who never moved in such a way, like capoeira? How would you describe this?
Well, I think for everyone it's different, isn't it? Whether it is a natural movement or not. It's interesting sometimes when you work with children that you see that some pick up, the basic movement Ginga much quicker than others. Like it seems to be much more in the bodies of some people than in others. So that's also very interesting to me to see. So I don't know what it is, why that is, where that comes from. It can also be cultural. I don't know. Yeah.
Speaking of the cultural thing, how was your cultural impression of Brazil? Because you said you decided, I want to be there, I want to stay there. Was it only because of the capoeira, or was it the living situation or the feeling of life there? How was it compared to?
It was really the capoeira. Yeah. It was really the capoeira. I sort of, for me, it felt like at the time, oh, this is the real capoeira. Like I'm now learning the real capoeira. That, and I wanted to learn the real capoeira. That was the feeling I had. And I also really liked the warmth of the people.
I see.
The warmth and the energy that's created in the roda, that was very strong in Brazil, because it was full of Brazilian people that create this energy. And I really loved that feeling of the warmth in the roda.
You were speaking of the real capoeira. What was it about the capoeira that was real there? That's interesting.
That's also why I said at the time, because at the time that I really felt that's the real capoeira to what I'd done before. But the real capoeira is everywhere you go. It's the real capoeira. I really love the Brazilianness of the capoeira, the making the jokes, the laughing around, the spontaneity. I really find that really enjoyable to be in this sort of a fun, jokey sort of surrounding.
Okay, and can you reproduce this surrounding in your Dutch academy?
I believe I have done that. I believe I've managed to do it for a great, quite a lot. But obviously it's not the same still, because we are still a different culture, So, but I do try to make, I do believe we have a lightness in the group where we do joke around and laugh around also. But it's still a little bit different. I've noticed it's a different when I'm with Brazilian people and I switch to Portuguese with these people. It still feels to me different than when I speak Dutch and I'm with Dutch people.
Okay, and do you have developed kind of pedagogical tools or so to encourage this kind of lightness or something? Do you know a way to go there, to change minds and emotions?
I think so. Particularly also with the children, we start first with our hand on the floor and everyone is quiet, and then we sort of roll up, and then there's news. As they all shout, now it's become news, and it's very fun. And the children then share with us. They share amongst each other, with me, what's on their mind. So it can be that they're going to go to a birthday party later on, or that the cat took down all the curtains, or some people say, "Oh, who else likes sushi?" Or we've created some sort of animal, and then the animal has a dragon tail and 5 noses and all sorts. So
or we discuss whether you can do capoeira on the moon and how would that be on the moon.
Oh, that's I haven't thought about that yet.
So it's really fun. It's really in Dutch you have this word gezellig, sort of gezellig in German, and in English it's cozy, but it's not really cozy. But what you feel is that you give the children a chance to get rid of the day, sort of thing. You know, sometimes also some more heavy things happen at school. I also obviously do this chatting sort of thing. We do this during the warming up, where I do the same thing very often with the ligaments. So they do the movements. They get the ligaments warm, and then we do the chatting. And it's also then you train coordination to do things at the same time, because sometimes people stop moving whilst they're talking.
I see.
And so then they're not allowed to say anything, so they have to continue moving. So you also train the coordination of that. But with the teenagers, sometimes really bad things happen at school, and you notice that it's a way for them to get rid of it. And once or twice it was so heavy that I just said, okay, let's just all sit down and let's just talk about that, because I just felt that it was to do in various schools. This problem had happened, and so on and so on. So I think that is a pedagogical, that word, I guess, tool to create sort of an atmosphere of, and then also, of getting through the day, and also we also end up having jokes or making fun, or who also has done that, or we had the snowman who also built a snowman, and so on and so on.
And I have two notions in mind now of what you explained to me. The first one is that you get all your stuff out of your head, that you have a clear mind and free and feel lighter because of it. And the other notion would be to make a connection between your everyday life and the practice you're doing now. Is it both aspects, or was it just one of those you wanted to highlight?
Particularly the first, what you said, but it's also something that grows. It's something that you suddenly start to realize, and you realize, oh, it's actually really fun. And then you realize it's not just fun, but it's also actually really good. So then you kind of let it happen, and then you realize when does it not work? When they start talking amongst each other, then it's already different. But sometimes you need to let that happen also. So it's, all these sort of things that you slowly, through the years, you kind of learn. Also, like, you want sort of positive news sometimes. Yeah. Otherwise, you get the very heavy energy. But sometimes that has to come out, particularly with the kids or something. And then you kind of go, okay, that's now been two things that are quite heavy. And then I ask, does anyone have any positive news? Yeah. So, and then I switch it to the, I don't know, who built a snowman or something like that. Try to then ask a question where many people can react to. So, yeah. And that's the warming up. And then when we stop the warming up, it's like, okay, news is finished, warming up's finished. And then we start. So, yeah, and that works fantastic. I'm always like, oh God, they listen. It's amazing. They're all quiet.
Okay.
Yeah.
And would you connect the warmth of the people in Brazil to the lightness there in the training and the jokiness?
For sure, with some of the news things, for sure, and also with adults. I mean, with adults we don't call it news, of course. It's just that sometimes you want to say also something. But you don't want to waste time. So then you think, okay, I'll say that whilst we're doing the warming up and stuff about an event we're going to and who's going there. And then we have this talk about the car, who's going with the car and who's going with the train or whatever. And then you get jokes with that. And then it's just funny. I don't know. You feel with the adults, very nice atmosphere.
Yeah, I guess so.
With the jokes and so on.
Yeah.
So you didn't catch my drift right now. So I was asking about not the pedagogical tools, pedagogical setting there still, but the everyday life in Brazil, like the warmth of the people and stuff. So do you think there's a connection between doing the light work of capoeira to giving more warmth in everyday life? Like there's a stereotypical view from Europe to Brazil, looking on Brazil, which is all they're all so funny and they are not so stiff and they are more prone to making jokes on the street and feeling good. But in your experience, is there a connection between the practice of capoeira, for example, to that mind setting there also?
Yes. Just coming back sort of in a bit with this idea of what you sort of take with you also from Brazil to Holland is the idea of the abraço, so that you give a hug. And that's something that I really sort of learned and saw in Brazil. And I decided I really want to take that with me, because I think it's wonderful to give an abraço, to give a hug. And in the capoeira world, you often sort of give an abraço when you kind of put your hand palms out, because the idea is you've done, cartwheels with your hands on the floor and the floor is dirty. And when you give a hug, you don't want to have these hands on people's backs that are dirty. So you do it sort of that way. So that's why I kind of can say, it's a capoeira abraço, because it's this way. For those people who find it sometimes a bit uncomfortable maybe to give a hug and so on. And I do this. So before class and after class, every student comes to me to give an abraço, and you also see that they amongst each other give abraços with the adults particularly. And the wonderful thing connecting them back to life is that some of the students have told me that they then started doing that to their friends outside of the capoeira world, starting more to give hugs, so that this sort of hug thing is going, reverberating outside of the capoeira world, which is this sort of warm thing. Yeah. And I think that's wonderful. And I think it also helps with the atmosphere of creating the same warmth that I felt in Brazil, also in my capoeira school Semente.
It's interesting because you already made the connection there between the so to say bodily physical practice of capoeira to the outside world.
Yes.
Where I was asking about the just practical stuff there, and also that extension of the abraço outside is cool, because it's a social impact there.
Yes.
So and if I understand
and also
you,
the abraço gives you a moment to connect with somebody. I really try, particularly with the children, I really try at that moment to be in the moment when I give an abraço to that person. And I always ask them, how are they? And then the Portuguese tudo bem, and then they also learn tudo bem, or I say it in Dutch, depending on the age of the child, and so on, so on. And then just sort of look at them, like how are they? And sometimes you can see they're not so are you sure? Or what happened? Or got pain or something? So then you can, you can really connect to the person. And also when they leave, then sometimes it's really amazing, because some of the children hold you longer than expected, and then you feel, okay, I need to hold them longer. So you wait until you feel that they kind of release us. And so then you've made that connection, Sometimes you really feel sort of gratefulness or warmth or something from them back. Also, of course, with the adults, but with the children, they're very natural still. It's very, very open still, I feel. So it's wonderful. Yeah.
When I was talking to you earlier, and also what you are talking about right now, does give me the impression that you understand capoeira as a more wider thing than just doing a ginga or doing a kick or a cartwheel, right? So the social surrounding of it, or the cultural practice of a abrazo there. Is this capoeira for you? Is this what is necessary to be a capoeirista or something like that?
Well, capoeira is capoeira. You know, everything that is part of capoeira is part of capoeira. That's how I see it. And I think for me, the culmination of capoeira is in the roda, when everything then, in my opinion, comes together in the roda with the people sitting in the circle and the music, and then you create this sort of energy together as a group, and then the two people play in the middle. And that, for me, that's capoeira.
I see.
And then everything the energy that's created in there, that's how I would say. But of course, there is this social aspect also. You know, when you have a really, really good roda, and it's finished, then you feel like Mestra Mara. She said, Mestra Mara is my madrinha, our madrinha of the school, and she said it's such a sort of beautiful way, as if then there is a thin line, that's a thin thread that connects everybody, and it's invisible, and it's like people don't want to break that thread, that invisible thread. And so what you see is that when you have a very good roda, that people sort of still linger. They linger also in the space. They sort of don't go straight home. You know, they stay and they talk and they chat and they, you know, some people just have to, you know, they have to leave early because they have to work the next day very early and so on and so on. But you can sometimes sense like when they don't want to go home. Yeah.
Maybe for the guys listening or watching here who don't know capoeira so extensively, maybe one has to explain what the roda is, the capoeira circle, because I think it quite differs from going to a boxing match, for example, right? So there are capoeira competitions nowadays, but so to say the first form of the cultural manifestation is that circle, right? Doing music together and dancing, fighting together, or as you want to call it.
Well, I would always say play, you know, because of the capoeira.
And it's jogar capoeira.
Jogar capoeira. So I think that always is the best verb in the end to use, is to play capoeira.
All right. And the thing about it is that the roda is quite a complex thing, as also a UFC match is, right? It's a ring or a cage in the middle there, but there's also a surrounding. And as I understood you right now, all the things which form the circle around also stick into the capoeira sphere, so to say, meaning that if capoeira points outward of itself to society, society also points inward in a way. So there is an exchange of the space of capoeira, which is the circle, and the outside, which is quite the analogy like all the pastinhas and bimbas of the capoeira world wanted to highlight as well. Is that your experience, or would you express this different?
Well, I think it's very much where you hold the roda also, of course. If you hold the roda in like an enclosed space or in your own academy, then there is no audience. So there is, at that moment, is nobody around
that's
watching.
For sure.
Yeah, so that's a different kind. Then as soon as when you have people around the roda, who are more spectators. So that obviously happens when you're doing it at a festival or a show or on the street, a street roda. But sometimes we also have rodas where also, you know, people are welcome to watch and so on. So that then it's obviously different. But you always want to try to draw in the people, you know, even if they're sort of outside the roda.
Yeah,
it's nice to draw them in. Yeah.
Also, the people which are present in the roda, be them capoeiristas, for example, right? And if I understand you correctly, you're saying your Dutch people bring other stuff to the roda than the Brasileiros, for example, right? So the society might might come to meet capoeira in other persons. So like the aunt visiting the practice of their niece or so.
Right.
Or it could, or the niece itself could bring something from the outside to the inside in a way. That means my Dutchness, my Germanness, my Brazilianness, I'm trying to make a provocant point here, comes to the Horda and meets other people's realities, so to say. So do I understand you correctly that this differs from the Brazilians to the Dutch people in a way? Not overly stereotypical, it's like this and it's like this, but maybe there's a tendency, or doesn't make it any difference there at all.
I'm not quite sure what you what you're saying with regards to the spectators. I'm not so sure.
So you were answering that way that society, a stereotypical society, could come from the outside to a capoeira in a form of a spectator. Then you would have a non-capoeirista coming to a Horda and seeing and watching there, changing the surrounding, and maybe saying something like, "Yeah, it's fine," or something like this. Well, or it could be the people themselves bringing something from within.
Well, I remember once, for instance, we had a Brazilian student, and her Brazilian mother came from Brazil to watch. And before this, we made moqueca, which is a Brazilian fish dish. And then this mother had this wonderful headscarf, which she draped in a very beautiful way. And she had this wonderful energy. And that day we decided to work with candles, and so it was dark, but we had these candles, and there was this lady for me, and she was sitting in the corner of the room, so she was a spectator. But there was such an energy coming from this lady that to me felt she was she was there, she was with us because of the strength of her being, sort of thing. That was amazing when you say that the outside comes in, for sure. That was I remember that very vividly. It was very, very beautiful.
So that all adds to your notion of energy, or energia, as you would call it in Portuguese. Can you explain in what way you're talking of energy there?
Yes, I would. I would love to know myself. But how I see it when it comes when you're talking about the energy in a Horda is this just fascinating for me. So when you start a Horda, you have this circle of people, and when the music has not started yet, and it sort of feels like it's neutral, the ground is neutral. The energy I would then call is neutral. You don't feel anything special. It's there. And then, depending very much on the teachers that are there, or the capoeiristas, or the level of the capoeiristas and the ability of the capoeiristas, when they start the music, they create energy, and you feel the change. That's what it is. It's like, it's different now. It's different than it was 10 seconds ago, or it's different than it was a minute ago, because sometimes it takes longer for it to change, and all I can sense is it's change, that something suddenly is there, like I can sort of feel it in my fingers. And when you're sitting in it's called the pé do birimbau, so when you're sitting crouched, sort of near the instruments, like at the mouth maybe of the circle, you can say it in English, then you start feeling it. You start feeling this change, and then sometimes it changes even more when the lead singer starts singing, and what kind of energy that person brings into the Horda. Sometimes you feel, whoa, you can just so strong. And then when it's so strong, your arms just go up like they're by themselves. You're not doing anything; they just going up. It's like, whoa, it's this amazing amount of energy. And sometimes then it's like, well, you don't feel anything, just feel nothing. So, yeah, and that's what I could only, I am so interested in the subject as to what is it that you feel nothing and you feel something. What is it? This something, it is that you feel, and why is it that some teachers or maesters or whatever, not maesters, contramaesters, have this ability to change this energy so fast or so strong? It's crazy. It's crazy. Some of the capacity of the capoeiristas, amazing. Yeah.
Do you have the impression that you can create that kind of energy, or your kind of energy?
Personally, I am learning still. I also can create it, but not so fast.
I see.
For sure, not so fast. It takes a while for me, for sure. But it's also strange to say, because when you're creating it, you're helping to create yourself. When you're leading the heart, it's obviously different when you're just sort of sitting there. Feeling is obviously when you're there, part of the creation. It also has to do, obviously, with the other capoeiristas that are in the bateria, so that are playing the other instruments. The knowledge and the capacity these capoeiristas have. But I feel very much that it's definitely connected to, to the timing of the music.
I see. Are there other influence factors?
Well, I'm still researching this, still.
Yeah,
but
let's
I
research
think,
together.
I think for sure, it's how well, teachers play the instruments. For sure, that's one thing, like from a technical musical point of view. But then definitely also with the singing is very much what they bring in, and therefore you do obviously also need a musical technique, but that's not the main thing. So someone can technically sing very, very well, but I feel no energy coming, and I think it's, Mestre Maus says you have to sing with energy from inside out. And I think it has a lot to do with the emotions and how the person can bring out the emotion to the other people. And then, when they sing with emotion, or when they sing, I think there is some sort of intention there that to create this energy. Also maybe some mental preparation beforehand or something, whether maybe consciously or subconsciously. I don't know, but I it's just fascinating. I find it fascinating. It's also obviously one day also you feel better than the other, because some days you have more to give than other days. Other days you don't have so much to give. Then it's also difficult to create such an energy. But then sometimes it also is that you feel it coming back again from all the people in the Horda, from the group. And then that sort of feeds you, and then you go, they're helping you again, and then you can give back again, and then it also builds up, So I think that also influences. Yeah. Is
it always a positive feeling for you? Is it always a positive energy?
You definitely go to events. I've definitely been to events where I don't feel a good energy in the Horda. And sometimes it makes me feel so uncomfortable that I really need to step out. Yeah.
Okay.
I need to step out the Horda because it's something not right. Yeah, and it can be various things. Yeah.
And could you intervene there? Would you know how to address an issue where you don't feel the energy, and to change the surrounding in a way that
I can do that in my own group, in my own school. Yes, because I am the leader of the group, so it is my responsibility also, and it is within my power. So sometimes when you have guests coming and you feel there's something right, then you can intervene for sure to try to get rid of something. But when I'm in the other group, no, because for me it's always very much the leader of the group that has more of a say, and also I believe there's always many more maestras that are have been much longer maestra and have much more capacity to be able to do that.
All right. Maybe also for the uninformed viewer or watcher, so Capoeira is also a little bit structured hierarchically. So we obviously have titles like Mestra, Contramestre, Trainer, whatever. And the saying of my group and other people's group is kind of comes around as a belonging, which is it is not, but it's this fear of influence, as I understand you, right? So if you are a guest somewhere, you don't have a say in this. If you don't feel quite right and you get the impression it's kind of an aggressive atmosphere here or something.
That's
so
how I see it.
Yeah,
that's how I see it. But there's definitely teachers who feel they have a right definitely to do something about it, and also they have the capacity. The capacity to do it, and if they do it, I think it's fantastic. So I'm not saying you should not do it, but this is where I'm standing right now and what I feel. Because at the same time, you're also judging them, and very often I always feel, well, there's so much information I don't know. Mm-hmm. So I would have to really know a group very, very well, and I've been there many, many times also to understand better before I would, do something. So the only thing that if it does not feel right for me is that I step out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to share a little story here from my field trip. Yeah, and field research in Germany as well, because the same person was involved there. So I was staying in Salvador in the Forte do Santo Antonio. There was a Horda going on, kind of a very formal Horda there, well structured and well mannered, so to say. And I was playing with the guy who entered the Horda with me, and we were starting to play, and it got a little bit more engaged, and he wanted to come around a little bit more aggressive in my perception or so. And at one point he hit my nose. That was the point where the Mestra shouted like hell, we have to stop here. So not happening in my Horda, too aggressive or so. And the guy hitting me, which was fine by me, it was all good, just an accident in my opinion. He was starting to try to explain, the energias, Mestre, the exchange of the energias didn't quite happen, right? It was not mal intended, but it just happened there. This was the first thing. And the same guy in Germany in another Horda hit one again, like badly. A younger girl than him, less experienced, and I think it was also just an accident, but he hurt her like really really bad. And again the speaking of energy started. So, and I don't know whether that helped in the way there, but what helped was the intervention of stopping, explaining no hurting here, and it's like it's a practical matter there. And whereas if you stay within the concept of the energia, it kind of also gets a little bit metaphysical, right? Well, emotional for sure, but then you take it personally. You say it's my feeling of energy there, and I don't know how to, or I should not, or whatnot. And I think maybe it's kind of also has this practical level about it, to just if you notice somebody who's chewing gum all the time and biting his teeth, and maybe he has had a bad day, wouldn't you say you couldn't approach this guy in the situation and say, hey, what's about it? You need to relax or so? Or would that would that be non-polite in that Capoeira world you live in?
I still feel it's has to be something really, really wrong or something. What I have done before is, for instance, there's always a lot of filming going on in Hordas, and sometimes you can really sense people that have the Horda, have the camera very, very strong, where it affects the Horda for me. So then I've sort of sometimes kind of pulled out the person a bit, like, oh, it's better if you stand a bit backwards so not to affect the harder so much, you know, sort of. Those are little things that you can kind of do more on a subtle level. But I also think it's very much you're like putting yourself sort of above, and you know better, and you shouldn't do this and that and the other. And I still don't feel very much in the position. Like I said, in my own group, in my own space, in my own harder. We have like a harder once every 2 months where all the students come together, and there's also guest students. Then I do these things for sure. You know, you also sometimes sense, okay, we need a break now. You just sense the energy's gone down. You know, there was something, and I like thought, okay, I'll take the harder, I'll take the with the gunga, and I was like, there's something wrong, and I didn't really understand what it was. I just went, okay, so we just need to stop. So then I stopped, and I said, okay, we're having a break. Let's bring some air in, or move our bodies a bit, have some water. And it was a bit of a strange timing to stop the harder because it was still short until we would have stopped. But it's just like, okay, that's what you have to do. You have to stop. You have to stop it, yeah. And then only sort of the week later when people were saying, oh, this and did you? And I went, that was it. That's what it was. Yeah. You know, so, you know, then you realized later, I understand what it was that I was sensing. Yeah.
Maybe adding to the ambiguousness of this, or the notion that it's hard to grasp what is happening there. There's also that superstition of some people that if there's a bad energy in the harder, then the birimbaos tend to break.
Right.
Yeah, or something like this. So the dancing around the topic, what is the energia, is quite imminent to the whole field of capoeira, right? And most of the people I interviewed, at least, share that notion of the ability to feel something there, but not being able to tell what it is.
Yeah.
Mostly thinking it's a great thing, but sometimes thinking, something is quite odd right now. So, and I'm questioning you there a little bit more because I think maybe you share that notion that capoeira has a certain ability to do something good for the people which practice capoeira, maybe around it, spreading abraços all the time or something. And wouldn't it be helpful to identify which are hindrances that capoeira doesn't spread a little bit more in Holland, in Germany, or the world? Because I think there is this imminent possibility of that mal energia, that bad energy, if problems in the harder or in the training context or the structural world of capoeira are not addressed explicitly. Can you follow that notion in a way that there is room for improvement to be gained by putting names to things which happen? Wouldn't it be a good thing to have a better idea of what is happening there and what do we have to change?
I'm kind of thinking about this thing also, what you said with, you know, that the berimbau string sometimes breaks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? And for me it's always very interesting when it breaks. And that you sometimes feel, there's something wrong, and then a berimbau breaks. I've had a student say to me that he knew 3 seconds before the berimbau would break that it was going to break, but that student thought it would be his own berimbau that was going to break,
mm-hmm.
but it was another one. For me, it was clear why it broke, but I didn't have the sensibility to feel it happening before.
Mm-hmm.
But it made total sense. And then something was relieved, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
There was another instance where, I mean, there's many interesting instances. I always say it's interesting
mm-hmm.
when it breaks. There was one which was for me such a wonderful explanation, which is, you know, when you talk about good energy or bad energy, is that I sometimes think is a cross also of energy. When energies cross, and that's not necessarily bad, but it's very often it is. But there was this instance that I was playing berimbau. I think I had the gunga, and there was a contramestre in front of me, and he had played a long time with many different students. And then there was a student that offered him some water, like, you know, would he like some water? He'd been playing for so long. And he made a joke. He made a joke like, no, I don't need to. And then he was like, no. Like, I don't need water, you know. It was a real joke. Like, I don't need water, you know. I'm strong, whatever it was. And that moment, the berimbau broke. It was like, it was so strong somehow that, I think this sort of crossing. It wasn't mine, but it was the person next to me where it broke. And I was like, wow, that must, and I could feel this no, but it was a very neutral no because it was a joke, and even the person was quite surprised, like, gosh. So for me, that kind of, started this sort of crossing of energies, sort of that then, because I always wish still that we can scientifically also explain why it breaks, and it always breaks at the top. It never breaks in the middle. And a very, very old master said that in his experience, it had never broken in the middle before, ever, and that it doesn't break in the middle. And since then, that he said this 20 years ago, I remember I've not ever had it either, that it breaks in the middle. So I don't think so it ever breaks in the middle, but you can't say until until this, that, and the other. It always breaks at the top or at the bottom also, but often at the top, and whether it is that then these trilling and these vibrations, yeah, that the vibration get too much and that it then breaks. So maybe when the crossing of energies comes, that it breaks, that's where I'm so far with the explanation.
Next topic for the next thesis of Mestra Lisette.
But I have no idea, absolutely no idea. But there are other explanations, of course, which are we would call supernatural or so on and so on. So there's also room for that. We don't know. I don't know. I'm not saying no for because we don't know.
There's also the whole cultura negra connected with capoeira. For the guys who don't know capoeira, it is like Afro-Brazilian martial arts, a martial art, and which means it does connect in person or in ideas to samba, candomblé, maybe carnival, for example, like this. And within this cultura negra, there is a lot of, so to say, common ground or everyday superstition. There's also religious experience, like religious in candomblé. And some mestres or practitioners of capoeira would say every capoeirista has a orisha as his protector or something. Do you know people who deal that way, and do you think it is an influence which is all right? Is it okay to think so? Is there bad energy involved, or is it a good thing? Something? Have you met people like this?
I think we're talking about religion, and I think that's a very, very heavy subject. Very heavy subject. So for me, it's very difficult to talk about it. I think it's very difficult to talk about it, and I think me as a Dutch person, we really don't understand anything about candomblé. So we cannot say anything about candomblé because we really don't know.
And
I really think it's a very, very deep knowledge, very, very deep rooted fundamental knowledge that's within there. So I find it very, very difficult to say. I think, capoeira obviously has this very, very heavy slave history, and we must really understand that it's there, and we must really respect that it's there, and also really understand, the part that we we Westerners have played in that, and we must really, really be very careful in all of these things, for we really don't understand. I think we just don't understand.
So you were instinctively connecting the religion to the slavery part, speaking of heavy things. Is there
any kind of religion? Any kind of religion is a difficult subject.
I understand.
And within, how I understand is a capoeira to me is not a religion, but that you have the freedom to express your religion in capoeira. That capoeira gives you this ability to express it.
Yeah,
and that this can be, we can be done through songs and through lyrics and through particular rhythms, that can be introduced into it. So I really want to leave it with that, because I really think that I really don't know. All I can say is how I feel in my capoeira semente, and that I really feel energy. That's how I would say. That there is something there that this, when you're talking about supernatural, and I don't class it as a religion, but I class it something that I sense, but I don't know again enough about it, and that I'm really on this sort of, path of going further and further of these things that you start sensing. Through time, you start sensing things that you didn't sense before. Mm-hmm. This is very interesting to me. And I don't know enough. That's what I keep saying. I don't know enough to say anything about it. But I really think we really don't know what we're talking about.
Interestingly, when we started the conversation, you were saying that capoeira was the better practice to express yourself. And now you open it up as a space of expression, also for religious practices or beliefs. What do you want to express in your capoeira? Or what is healthy to you? What feels good? What is nice?
For me, I see capoeira like as another language, as a language, and that you're having a conversation between two people, and you're connecting with the other person not through words, but through bodily movement. And I find that a very, very wonderful way to connect with the other person, and that you're reacting to the other person, and then you can give a reaction. That person reacts. Oh, that person understood, mm-hmm. and it's wonderful when you feel that the person understands, and vice versa. Like you're all the time having a conversation, and there's no words in the middle. I think that is such a wonderful feeling. I think it's brilliant. And then you laugh, you just smile, you just you can make a joke mm-hmm. with your body and laugh.
All right. What is there to understand if you express it?
Well, for instance, when you make a joke, mm-hmm. some people get your humor and some people don't. Like some people have a different sense of humor. So some people don't laugh when you make a joke. And some people think that they didn't even realize it was a joke and think that it was something serious, and then give you like a serious reply back, and you're like, oh, well, that was a joke. I didn't, mm-hmm. didn't mean it, And so you kind of, change and so on and so on. So that also happens with the body, when you make a joke. But sometimes, you make a joke and the other person laughs. So you obviously both got it, or the other person does something and you find it funny.
Yeah, so it comes around as a situational thing, and also a situational awareness in a way.
Yes, and you very much, you play, when you play with someone, you sometimes really feel like a flow, and it's a wonderful sort of game, and you're really sort of enjoying it. And sometimes it's very heavy and like, and you're not so much enjoying it because you don't relate to that person so much, but it can be that particular day. Of course, you have to have several games to really understand whether it was just that day that person, that you didn't manage to gel or not.
Okay.
But it's really interesting because I talked to some mestre, and he told me like he had this difficulty with me to play, and then he said this, that, and the other, and then he said this other person's name, which was for him also difficult to play, and I was like, wow, I love playing with that person. Like, I love playing with that person, and he finds it difficult to play with that person, and he finds it difficult to play with me. So there's just, obviously, it's not a match, It's just, although I thought this person plays beautiful when you watch this person, but just somehow there is something that doesn't match. And it has nothing to do with the ability of that person, the person is not that he's aggressive or horrible or an asshole or anything, it's just somehow with some you get each other, and with others not. That's why I love this always to compare capoeira with language, because that's, what a lot of us do understand when we have a conversation.
Mm-hmm. So it doesn't happen all the time, but if it happens, it's that wonderful celebration of the moment to be understood, and that there's a connection, if I understand you.
I don't think necessarily understood. No? Sometimes it can be understanding, but it's connecting. Yes, I would say connecting is it's a nice feeling when you feel the energy of the other person, and then maybe vice versa. Obviously, I don't know what the other person's feeling. Yeah. But that it just makes you put a smile on your face, and that means you're enjoying yourself. If you're smiling, you're enjoying yourself. Apart from if it's a facade or whatever. Yeah. And it's just wonderful.
So there is this wonderful moment in that light moments, in that joyful, funny moments. But is there also a connection in that? What you said, heavy topic? Was it heavy? Was it right? If there's something not right?
Yes.
I don't feel right, but I can be understood by you as well. You were yesterday. You were talking about this a little with me.
Yeah, because for instance,
could you explain? Yeah.
Sometimes when you're sitting in a bateria, so having an instrument, and then you're like, oh dear me. Some feeling in the stomach, and it's like, and then there's this change, and somebody changes the instrument, and then suddenly someone else is sitting next to you, and you're like, oh my word, what a difference. And then suddenly, I feel much better. It's amazing, this difference, and sometimes of course yourself, sometimes you end up maybe in a train of thought or something that could be heavy. So it was very difficult for me in the beginning, because I always thought it was me feeling that. And then at some point you start to realize, okay, when is it me and when is it definitely not me, but I'm feeling this heaviness from this other person. And I'm still learning. Is it the person that's on the left, or the person on the right, or is it someone else, or is it someone behind me? So I had this person walk behind me, I was like, and what is it? Why suddenly I feel this? It's very, very interesting for me, because I still don't know exactly. I just sometimes feel something, and it either makes you feel horrible or it makes you feel fantastic. I've also had this where I often translate at events, and I've very big honor sometimes to translate certain teachers, because they have such beautiful knowledge. And I remember there was this mestre, and normally they sort of speak to the group and then you translate to the group. But this mestre sort of talked to me, and then I looked at me, talked to me, and then I brought it to the group. So I felt more, I was sort of passing it on. And he would transmit such amazing, strong energy that I suddenly felt I felt like it was 2 meters tall. It was different feeling than me. It was sort of half me and half this amazing, huge bodybuilder. I was like, my word, this is crazy. Yeah. And, that's sort of those things that you feel. It's and then there was one teacher, and I could not even look at the group. I could just look at the floor, That was it. I could not look at the group. And I was thinking, but I'm not... What the person was saying, there was nothing wrong with the person. What he was saying, like the content. Like, you know, sometimes you have to translate things, you don't agree with it or something. It's a bit difficult. I was thinking, there's nothing wrong with him. I can't look at the people. And then later, very much later, and then he sort of told something had happened, something very bad had happened. And I was like, maybe it was something that, you know, there that, you know, that I caught where I just didn't feel that I couldn't look at the people. Like it made sort of more of an explanation once I understood more the background of it. So that's the negative or the heaviness things. And then, you know, sometimes...
Also the hidden. Also the hidden, because you didn't know what happened, but still it was manifesting itself.
Yes.
So
and then what is it? What is it that manifests itself? You know, why does it make me, you know, do I feel these things in the stomach or something? And I go, oh, I feel great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a philosopher, I'm obliged to say something about enlightenment right now. So as the historical phase of enlightenment, where the idea is to bring light where no light is shed before, to bring some things to consciousness, to address them in a different manner as well. So like explicitly. So drawing on the topic, you didn't want to go too much into detail there, the religious part, just for abstracting from the whole topic to go to a concrete matter would be, for example, that it's also structural components of the capoeira which manifest themselves inside the daily practice, right? If I go to a horda, this horda is kind of ordered in a hierarchical way. The musics are ordered. There is everyday practice of the people to know what is to be done there, like implicitly and explicitly. And one of this relating to the religious part would be, for example, like religious taboos, as for women to not play capoeira or to participate in other events as well when they menstruate, for example. So this is just one example of the structural surrounding about it. And I wonder whether there are improvements to be made. Not I only wonder, but other people as well. If you look at the world of capoeira from a structural position, like zooming out a little, maybe abstracting from your point of view as well, coming back to other people's thoughts as well. Is there room for improvements to make the world?
What is fundamental is the history. I think the historical aspect is fundamental in capoeira, and I think that must really be understood. It must be understood where these thoughts come from, where certain practices come from, where certain rituals come from, and what they, why they're there, what makes a ritual or structure be there. And to me, some things are very fundamental, and if you change that, then you change a very big aspect of capoeira. And then there's some things that, you know, it doesn't really matter so much whether something is purple or something is I don't know, blue or something. You know, you kind of realize that can be changed because it doesn't change anything that you see as fundamental. So I think when you start talking about a room of improvements, is these things of like, can that be changed? Because is it very fundamental? What are we changing then? So I think we need to understand also what the consequences are when we change something.
Yeah.
So first we need to understand very deeply what, where it comes from and why it's there. And it takes a lot of time until that understanding, that deep understanding is there. And you kind of go, okay, well, now understand why that's there.
I have a little bit more provocation for you for this. All right. So there is that.
Well, sorry, just to come. Of course, this story I know about the. About the female when they're menstruating and they shouldn't be playing a berimbau and so on, is that from my personal point of view, nothing bad happens when you are menstruated and you play berimbau. And actually, it's very nice to have the gunga or have the kabasa in your stomach. It's very nice. The vibrations are very nice. Yeah. So it's actually very positive. So there, in this particular case, I do not see anything bad happen.
No.
Because I am the leader of the group and I have to play, I have to lead the Horda. And I have led the Horda many times, when you're menstruated or not, in 22 years. And nothing bad happens.
Yeah.
So I can say that.
So I'm trying to draw the connection a little bit, connecting to that point maybe. So if you abstract from this religious talk about this or the traditionalized capoeira view on this, you could say with a little bit of social science, you could say, so maybe it's also about power issues and power struggles and hierarchies when certain people define the way a ritual life is structured, be it for religious matters, for money matters, or whatever. So, and coming back to the provocation, there is a little small movement within the capoeira discourse, which would say capoeira sem mestre não é bom, no? So they're trying to make a point for that ancestralidade and for the knowledge of the old people and for that history part you were making so strong, and saying we are losing that connection if we lose the maestro, or we don't emphasize them. Yeah, because there are other groups trying to break free out of this hierarchy and changing the ritual, adapting to nowadays society or whatever, how they see it. I couldn't tell for now. And so to get it to a really sharp point, yeah, in how far is capoeira structured that way as it is different for you personally, as if you would just call it just a game?
Well, from my personal situation is that I also do not have a maestre, but I have a madrinha. So for me, I do believe that this connection with Mestra Mara, in this case my madrinha, she is a lady who is older than me. She's a lady that is more experienced than me, and she's a Brazilian lady. And I believe this connection is vital to have, because it connects me to Brazil and it connects me to the understanding of the Brazilian culture and the capoeira culture, the songs, the meaning of the songs, the deeper meaning of the songs, the things that we just as Western people, like certain plants or animals we don't have in our nature. Mm-hmm. And so we don't know what that means and what they want to say using those animals in the songs, in the Horda, what that means. And this is this information that we miss, and we will never get it unless we have this connection. So I do believe this connection is very important. But me, Mestra Mara, we don't have this sort of traditional way of this mestre. We have this. We've sort of created together this way of she's my madrinha, and she supports me, and she's always there for questions, and we can share a lot of what happens within the capoeira world with each other, it being the good things and the bad things. Yeah. It's just wonderful to talk to her and say, oh, I've been invited to Germany for a podcast, and then she's all happy for me, and it's just lovely to share. Mm-hmm. and it's wonderful because she's followed me for so many, many years. So she's seen all the phases I've gone through and the growth I've gone through, and she's helped me grow. So I think this is very beautiful and very important. But you need to find a very good person where you connect with, you know, and this is not always the case, and this is not always easy.
Mm-hmm.
So
sharing the knowledge is the point, right?
Yes.
So still provoking a little.
Yeah.
Still, I will stop afterwards. Okay, but we are the time changed. We have other technologies. There's YouTube. Yeah, there's knowledge share. I mean, a shallow one, right?
Yes.
It's not very deep there, that's for sure. But we have ways of communicating and sharing even more than we could before. Why is the personal connection there so important? For spoilers, I think it is important, but I'm not telling right now.
Well, because YouTube doesn't talk back to you. YouTube cannot correct you. YouTube can't say, you know, YouTube can say, when you do this move and you should straighten your knee, and you might be thinking that your knee is straight, but this real person can say, actually, it's not straight. But I really thought it was straight. No. Do this or whatever, and then, oh, yes, oops. So I think this is one of the very clear examples of why this other person is. And then in the case of Mestra Mare, like I said, is that she's then happy for you. You're like, woohoo, I've this, and oh, this happened, and oh, there's another student, and oh, we got this and that. And then there's, you know, this joy in the sharing of these moments. Or there is this, oh, you know, and I went to this event, and then this person did this, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then you feel all terrible, and then she says, but it's because of this, or maybe this, that, and the other, and then afterwards you feel much better. You know, because you shared it, and because she's in that world, she understands that world, so she has sometimes more explanation of why the things are there. Yeah.
Is there a possibility within the structure of capoeira for the establishment of kind of bad gurus in a way? So, because the people who teach there, mostly called trainers, contramestre, mestre, mestra, are key figures, right? And there's, in some groups, at least in my research, there is a tendency to a real strict hierarchy. Not only by you tell what I tell you to do, not only by there is a lot to be gained by being close to the mestre. For some, you get higher, be ranking faster or something. But also in the search for orientation, like history-wise, identity-wise, ideologically wise. So there are bigger tendencies as well, but also small examples of groups where it goes in hardcore religious, hardcore racist issues or something like that. And so that key figures share a crude power, to say there, yeah, for young people, most like in the case of Brazil, often from favela or comunidades as well, right? Also in Germany or wherever where you have like vulnerable groups you work with, then there's also that possibility to influence young minds in ways which are just not good for them. Not in my point of view, but looking out of the eyes of the children who grow up in a surrounding and looking back and thinking, what has this guy told me there? And then the need to overcome it afterwards. Doesn't only happen in capoeira, I'm not saying this, but what's your opinion on this?
So I see it as as power. People that have the power and people that do not have the power.
Yeah.
When you look at it again from a cultural point of view, that in Holland there is a low power distance compared to Brazil, whereas there's a much higher power distance. So I would say Holland and Germany would be quite similar, but I'm not, of course, exactly sure. And it's how power is distributed in a society and how it is accepted, how much difference the people that have the power and do not have the power. And because in Brazil, and this is where Capoeira comes from, and this is why you have these structures also, I believe, in Capoeira, is that this very high power distance. And this also comes from the slave history and so on. So these people that have the power, so in the Capoeira, the highest titles, are given by the people a lot of power. And I completely agree with you that this power that they have, they should be very, very, very aware and very, very responsible. And that you have people who are very responsible with this and try their best and have the best intentions. And you have people that abuse the power. And like you said, it's not only in Capoeira, it's in many other places in politics and so on. And that is in itself. I am from a low power distance country, so I believe much more in a flatter structure, because I also believe it's not good to give so much power to one person because of this thing that it can corrupt, and if it's in the bad hands, then there's much more damage and so on. So but I'm very Dutch, I keep thinking I'm very, very Dutch. So I'm more into more democratic, and I'm also in Holland is like, it's not seen if you're like a manager that you have the biggest office, a huge office and so on, then they don't really accept that so much. Whereas in other countries, you need to have a huge, big office and a huge, big car, because that means you're a very good manager, So, for me, I'm now in this Capoeira world, and I have this title, and I'm still learning about this title, because very often they say, "Yeah, but Lisette, you can do that. You're now Mestre," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." Like I've been given this power to do this, and I kind of go, "Gosh, but that's really a lot," So I think that these people that have this power should be very, very careful. And yes, it can really go wrong, for sure. So that's why I don't think it's so good if there's such a big power distance. I don't believe it's good. People shouldn't start seeing you like a sort of a godlike person. Yes, Mestre, yes, Mestre. You first, Mestre, like... Oh, thank you so much for saying that.
It is to be observed quite easily.
Yes,
right?
Yes. So, but it's also suddenly when you feel like this sort of, when you go to events and so on, because in my semente I say I'm Lisette. I'm not Mestra Lisette. I don't want anybody to call me Mestra. I'm Lisette. So you already take away this, this. But of course you want people to listen to you and respect and so on, of course. Yeah. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Also, But because you're in the Capoeira world, in events, you are Mestre and so on, and you sometimes are very. It makes me feel uncomfortable. Sometimes, just please treat me normal. But then I'm like, oh yeah, I'm being Dutch. So it's very interesting to be, in these different cultures. Very interesting.
You were comparing Capoeira to like state politics or so?
No way.
I'm not comparing. Not really, but you were picking me close.
No, I'm just saying that I was saying about leaders. I was not comparing Capoeira
with the low power distance. I thought you were speaking of Dutch, not only Dutch Capoeira groups, but Dutch socialization per se, no?
No, I was more answering your question about the guru. That the person that has the power can abuse the power, and that this happens. And that the more the power is given to a leader, to a group, the more it can also go wrong. And that I think it depends also within the society how how this is structured and how much sort of is accepted by the people, whether that person has it or not.
Okay.
That's how I meant it.
Yeah. I understand. Still checks out for me. So because in other places you have something like checks and balances in the capoeira world, which is organized kind of like you could say it's anarchistically. So because there are a lot of groups, but they're not interconnected. Sometimes they're federations, sometimes they're just for show and just for organization. But there's no real connection. There's no real capoeira committee or something. And also there is that key virtues, so to say, in different manners to be lived. But there's malandragem, which is a way of being bad, but in a good way. To explain it easy for people, there is malicia, so like being like trickery and stuff, all that edgy virtues, and so actually we are saying, if we are speaking of capoeira mestres or maestras, these are the people combining a lot of power in a structure where there's no checks and balances, and they are mestres or maestras in that edgy virtues, which tend to be ambiguous, right? Sounds like, for an outsider, not knowing how the energy of a capoeira hauler feels, that sounds like a dangerous combination, doesn't it?
Well, I don't know how it sounds from outside, but definitely, like I said, if a lot of power is given, it can really be abused. I really think that for sure. I really think that's for sure. So, but I also don't know what would be a better way. You know, I find that also very difficult, because I think possibly the idea is actually a good intention, that the maestra is often the person with a lot of experience, because through age, you know, you go, you know, you get these titles because you're longer in capoeira, therefore you have more experience, therefore you have more knowledge, and hopefully therefore you are also wise, and therefore you hopefully know better, you know, what to do in certain circumstances. Particularly when you're leading a horda, like, you know which song should come next, what, you know, how to change, you know, these negative energies and so on. So those people who are capable of that, they're the ones that should be in the power. But the reality is that some people who have like lower hierarchical positions are sometimes much better than the ones with a higher or the higher title. But it's not just because they have the title that they are better. They had the chances become better because they had more chances of more years, maybe. But that doesn't always translate one-to-one, because some are more talented, some have more insights, some have more, you know, musical ability, other kinds of abilities. So the best thing would be is to do it in such a way, give the power to the people who are the best. But how do you judge that? You know, who decides who is the best? You also have, you know, some people prefer yellow and some people prefer green. And so I also find, like, how do you then solve it, you know? But for me, like, it's also about when you have the bateria, you also want harmony in the bateria. So you can have these two, like, maybe amazing maestras, but if they don't match, then you're also not going to have a good energy, because the two of them just don't work together. So it's also, you know, it's also about the whole group of people that, you know, has to harmonize. But for me, you know, at my events, there's sometimes, you know, there's contramaestre, but for me, they're just better. They're just better than the maestre. So then I just give them, you know, I give them the gunga or whatever, and it's a bit, you know, not well seen, but I'm just like, well, but, you know, I'm leading the group and this is my decision, and I just think that this contramaestre is just better than the mestre, you know. So that's where I kind of break, in that sense, the hierarchy, which is very difficult, difficult sometimes. But, you know, it's all about. I wish it would be done on basis of capacity.
Actually, we should come to an end slowly because our batteries of the lights are dying. Yeah. But still, there's one more pressing issue,
right?
I guess, to give you also an impression of where my questions are coming from. So, in the 1930s-ish, there was this movement of getting capoeira in the capoeira schools, in the academias, right? Before, it was considered a phenomenon of the streets, like a spontaneous aggregation of people, the Horda as a social institution in some cities other than Salvador, other than Rio or whatever, right? So, but with this institutionalization, there comes the titles, the subtitles, the saying of my group, the leadership for a group. So it's also an import of some problems which for now you can't tell how to make it better, right? So I won't judge that the one way or the other, but the idea comes to mind, wouldn't it be best to free capoeira again? To make it spontaneous again, to in that with all the technical stuff of communication we have now, to form a movement of capoeira, to liberate it, to give the power to the people, if you will, knowing that the sharing of knowledge is crucial, as you stated, right? But still, a lot of people, a lot of old mestres, old mestras, and other people who are not yet mestres or mestras can contribute to the same movement, to the same sharing of ideas, and creating something new as well.
It's interesting because you say why should we should liberate capoeira, but I really feel capoeira is liberated, or it is not liberated. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's kind of yes, that's how it feels to me. I feel very much there's sort of certain kind of groups with certain kind of thoughts that they wish it this way and they wish it that way, and there's certain kind of rules, and there's an idea behind those rules and why those rules exist, and that is for me very much okay. These kind of thoughts and these kind of rules are not for me. I cannot identify myself with them, and then I don't frequent them. But they may be fine for other people, and if other people identify themselves with that, then let it exist. Let it exist that way. And then there's other thoughts, and you kind of go, oh well, I like those thoughts. I like that way of when the music is played. I like that kind of feeling when I go to that Horda. So then you go towards that because you yourself can find yourself in that. And so there's all these different styles and all these different ways because it's free and liberated. So you also still have the street Hordas and you still have, the street culture. And there's mestres who are on the streets because that's what they believe. And it's great, it's fantastic, and it can coexist, and so it's there as well. I think it's exactly that's what you want, And there's other ways that say, oh, we don't want a mess, we want it this way, and no mess or something, and then they do it that way, and those people who find themselves in that. Follow that. And I think with many things that have advantages, certain rules have advantages, but at the same time they have these disadvantages. And then it's the question, can you live with these disadvantages or you find those advantages
just fantastic, then never mind the disadvantages.
My provocating question was not about rules, it was about the power issue. So,
but everyone has the power.
I know.
To create a school. I'm fine with that. You know, everyone has the power to create a school.
That is a fine thing to say.
So,
which is true, but it is also untrue. You know, it is also untrue, I must say, because if you're speaking of a capoeira world, these groups are not singular points, but they are connected. And I'm fine how things are, and I understand the liberation of the things. Everyone can find a co-founder group, and everybody will find his niche, right? But as we were talking before as well, there is no connecting ground for all the capoeira world, right? So but there's also a connection even for people who don't want the connection, because there's also there's power struggles. There is the telling of one person leading a group, don't go to the other group or whatever. So, and my point is, sure, it is free in a market idea, so to say. So it kind of reforms the society around it by reproducing market issues. Yeah, also market, because people founding groups and who have having to live with this need money and so on. And thinking apart from this, just for brainstorming, so to say, they allows the issue about leaving that structures a little, at least in theory, and feeding a social movement, so to say, which is just brainstorming. No wish of mine in a way.
Yeah. But like I said, the freedom is there to do that, and those people that wish to do that can do that, and then they should do that, and then they can find like-minded people where they identify themselves, and they do it. You know, they do it that way. Of course, what you do, wish is that the essence of capoeira stays, and is not changed so much, because then it's not capoeira anymore. And there's always this very fine line of gray. When is it not capoeira anymore? Like if you change this, then it's not capoeira. I mean, when you put on boxing gloves, it's clear, and then it's more boxing, then it's not capoeira. But certain things are very, very gray. And this is why I said it's important that you understand, these rules or these rituals and what is there before you start, changing things or thinking. But I really feel capoeira is free, is liberated, where you can do that. And particularly like in the Netherlands, you can go to the Chamber of Commerce and you can say, I want to open a capoeira school, and you do. There is no rule. You need to pay tax. I think that's always very important for the government to pay tax, but otherwise there's no rule. So it's very free. So that that's how I see it. And there's all these different viewpoints, but it's very clear for me what I like and what I don't like. And there's also very clear things that are very, very wrong. Sexual abuse in capoeira is wrong, but this happens in a country where there's also laws where this can also, be addressed through police, court, and so on, so on, so on. Anyway, it should be, and it is in very many countries. There's definitely things that are just, that should not happen. But many things is just, I don't like it, but other people do, and other people can live with it, and they're there.
Yeah.
So that's how I see it, and I see very much that for myself, I've managed to create semente with those things that I find important, and try to keep those things that I don't like in the capoeira world. I've tried to keep that out and going, I don't want that kind of things or rules when people come to semente. But also through time, you also realize, like, oh, that's why that rule was there. It actually has some sort of,
there's some sort of thought behind it that you only start through time to understand, and that's one way. And sometimes there is no real good way to solve certain kinds of problems. You know, this is just, that's how some people have solved this kind of problem that's there.
Although there is one constraint. You were speaking about yourself. The question, what is capoeira, is to be answered in that or that way. And you were saying you put on boxing gloves, it's not capoeira anymore. So I'm just making it for intellectual stretching of the ligaments, so to say. Yeah? But still, there are the people who can say what capoeira is and what it is not, with a little bit more power than others. And I'm especially not making a point for the boxing glove capoeira, because I think it clearly falls without the main idea of capoeira. But there are people currently right now forming sports associations capoeira, creating world games with capoeira, going into a even more competitive form of points, or going KO down the ground. And there's a whole variety of people with a lot of ideas, which I think also in your mind would totally contrast the main idea of capoeira. And so the question is, how can you maintain integrity?
Well, that's the question that I said, you know. Some things is very clear that when you change this, it is not capoeira anymore. So this boxing glove example, for instance, you know. But sometimes things are changed, and then for some people, it means if you do that, it's not capoeira anymore. And for others, but it's still capoeira.
See?
And sometimes people take like two different things and then put it together. And then they give it another name. Then it's Kampfgefuehl, or whatever, Cap Kung Fu or Kampfgefuehl or something. You know, then it becomes this name. And I think sometimes you can see it like in music. You know, you have music styles, and sometimes new music styles get this name, and then you can say, well, this is definitely this. But then there's also these mixes again, and then it becomes a mix of these things, and then they mix the names, and then from there something else, comes again. So I think it's sort of also in capoeira. It's still music, but it's a huge difference between classical music and pop music and blues and so on. So sometimes I can think, maybe we should look at it like that and go, well, but that really is not capoeira anymore. But they might say, but it is, and it is very difficult. But I do think, certain people just do know better, and other people just don't know. Someone can say, there's an airport in Haarlem, and I'm from Haarlem, and I can say, there is not an airport in Haarlem. And they say, yes, but I saw it on the map. And yes, you saw it on the map.
I know, there's no airport.
There is no airport in Haarlem. It's very close to Haarlem, So sometimes some people just have more knowledge and can just say, look, this is right. And this is wrong. But, sometimes you get in this realm of, but what's right and what's wrong? And there's a philosophical point of view, an existential point of view. So sometimes this is, it's a gray area, for sure. It's for sure sometimes complicated. But I'm sure there is, some people will say, it's capoeira. And I would say, I don't think that's capoeira anymore. For sure.
All right. Let's close it up a little. And ask the question, what do you want capoeira to be for the next decade of your life or this world?
You see, I don't have that.
But you're doing something, aren't you? You're doing your capoeira stuff, like your capoeira. What's it about for you?
I love this feeling. When I play capoeira, when there's a lovely energy, when there's good energy in the roda, I love this feeling. And every time you have a roda with this feeling, or every time you have a class with this feeling, after a class, sometimes I was like, that was the ideal class. This was just, it's wonderful. It's wonderful when you get there. When you get at this point where you're like, that was brilliant. That was ideal. But like this harder where afterwards the people don't want to go home, where everyone feels happy. When every time this happens, the day after tomorrow, next year's or whenever, this will make me feel happy and want to continue capoeira, but also obviously if the body kind of lets me do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. Thank you for talking.
Thank you.
And you're always welcome back. And if you have any more message to the world, now is your chance.
It's bloody difficult.
Okay, I take that.
That is really my message to the world, because I thought, I know this question's going to come because I've listened to the podcasts. I think it's very, very difficult. And I always said, nobody told me it's difficult. So I'm telling the world it is difficult. It's difficult when you want to create something, if you want to make something, if you want to put something in the world. It's extremely difficult, and it's even more difficult to maintain it, and even more difficult to maintain it for a long time. So now everyone knows it's difficult. And I can't say, nobody told me it's difficult.
Thank you for that. So then I wish all our viewers and watchers a little bit more of hesitantia to have the energy to do the stuff they want, because if it's difficult, you're going to need it. And thank you again, and see you. Ciao.
Ciao.